You spend 3 decades playing by the rules. You save, you invest, and right around age 58, your accounts hit a milestone. $1 million, $2 million. You feel secure. And then the math fractures. Take a man named Raymond. He hit $1.1 million at age 58 and comfortably stopped working. 14 months later, the market dropped 34% in early 2020. His balance shrank to barely over $700,000 in 6 weeks. By age 62, Raymond was back at work. Raymond was caught in a structural failure point inherent to the withdrawal phase of retirement. To buy groceries and pay utilities during a market crash, he was forced to sell his investments at a steep loss just to survive, permanently depleting the capital he needed to last another 30 years. This chart shows 2 identical retirement accounts, both averaging a 7% return over 30 years, but the sequence of those returns matters more than the average. The first account drops sharply early in retirement. Because the retiree must withdraw cash while the market is down, the account bleeds out and hits 0 by year 22. This is sequence of returns risk, the danger of a market downturn occurring at the exact moment you start living off your portfolio. The second account gets the same average return, but the bad years arrive at the end. It stays healthy for the entire 30-year period. While advisors often quote historical averages, the Trinity study shows that over a 40-year horizon, the reality for a 58-year-old, the standard 4% withdrawal rule fails up to 16% of the time. 1 in 6 people run out of money. The default retirement strategy fails early retirees because it applies the simple math used for accumulation to the volatile reality of the withdrawal phase. These 2 life stages require distinct engineering. Modern workers are operating a high-stakes financial machine using accidental blueprints from the late 20th century. The current system traces back to 1980, when a benefits consultant identified a provision in the Revenue Act of 1978. That obscure section birthed the 401k, effectively replacing defined benefit corporate pensions, where companies guaranteed a monthly check for life. That shift transferred the entire burden of investment, inflation, and longevity risk onto the shoulders of employees. Individuals were suddenly required to make complex asset allocation decisions without the structural education needed to manage them. We are driving a massive financial vehicle without an owner's manual. Without understanding the specific failure points of this system, wealth destruction at age 58 becomes a mathematical probability. Systemic vulnerability starts with friction, specifically the invisible friction of active management fees. This animation shows how a 1.5% annual fee grinds away a $200,000 portfolio over 30 years. It doesn't just take the fee, it destroys the compound growth that money would have generated. You lose roughly $240,000 of lifetime wealth to a fund manager who, statistically, will fail to beat a simple market index. Once you eliminate friction by moving to low-cost index funds, you have to address the deferred tax liability inside your traditional tax-deferred 401k. This visual represents 3 distinct piles of wealth: tax-deferred, tax-free, and taxable. The traditional 401k is a pressure cooker. At age 73, the government triggers Required Minimum Distributions, or RMDs. These are mandatory annual withdrawals that force taxable income onto your return, pushing you into higher tax brackets regardless of whether you need the cash. A Roth conversion ladder allows you to bleed off this pressure. Since you have no salary in early retirement, your taxable income is at its lowest point. You use this window to move funds from your traditional 401k into a Roth IRA, paying taxes now at a low rate so that all future growth and withdrawals are tax-free. Eliminating fee friction and addressing the tax burden early plugs the invisible leaks that silently drain decades off a portfolio's life. We still have to solve sequence of returns risk. If Raymond had engineered one specific patch, the 2020 market crash would have been a minor event instead of a career-ending catastrophe. That patch is a 2 to 3 year cash buffer. This money is held outside the stock market in high-yield savings or short-duration treasury bills. This chart tracks the 2020 market crash. The retiree uses the cash buffer to cover living expenses, meaning they never touch their equity portfolio. By August of 2020, the market has recovered. The shock absorber takes the damage, leaving the core engine intact. The final structural support involves delaying Social Security to age 70. The government increases your payout by 8% for every year you wait past your full retirement age. Delaying creates a guaranteed stream of inflation-adjusted income that serves as a hedge against living into your 90s. Financial independence is about engineering a system resilient enough to absorb poor market timing without being forced to liquidate assets at the worst possible moment. Yet individuals with multi-million-dollar portfolios often refuse to stop working, perpetually delaying retirement for one more year. This delay is a psychological trap. Ambiguity is the brain's least favored operating condition. A job provides concrete, familiar routine, while the idea of total freedom is abstract and uncertain. People often retreat into work simply because they lack a clear feedback signal for the alternative. This hesitation is anchored by an artificial number, the retirement age of 65. That figure was selected by the Roosevelt administration when designing the Social Security Act of 1935. In 1935, the average life expectancy at birth in the United States was 61.7 years. The program was designed so that a large portion of the working population would not live to collect a check. The age 65 benchmark is a century-old demographic calculation. It was installed before television existed and has zero relevance to the health and longevity of a modern adult. For a healthy 55-year-old today, conditional life expectancy, the projection for someone who has already reached middle age, stretches well past 83. The 7 years between 58 and 65 represent the peak physical and cognitive window of later life. You can travel, hike, and pursue meaningful projects while your body is at its most capable. Exiting at 58 requires deliberate system design. You must align your tax strategies, deploy your cash buffer, and maintain strict index discipline. True financial independence is about reclaiming autonomy over your time. You stop optimizing for a paycheck and start living on your own terms.